I'm particularly grateful to the people of Liverpool and elsewhere who are now taking part, tens of thousands of people in Liverpool, taking part in the mass testing work that's going on there. And it's fantastic news that we now have the realistic prospect of a vaccine, Mr. Speaker. But science has given us two big boxing gloves, as it were, with which to pummel this virus, but neither of them is capable of delivering a knockout blow on its own. And that's why this country needs to continue to work hard, to keep discipline, and to observe the measures that we've put in. And I'm grateful to the party opposite, grateful for the support that they're now giving for those measures.
New research today shows that the government has spent at least £130 million of taxpayers' money on PR companies, and that's this year alone. Does the Prime Minister think that that's a reasonable use of taxpayers' money?
Mr. Speaker, I think he's referring to the Vaccines Task Force, and after days in which the Labour Party has attacked the Vaccines Task Force, I think it might be in order for him to pay tribute to them for securing 40 million doses. And by the way, the expenditure to which he refers was to help raise awareness of vaccines, to fight the anti-vaxxers, Mr. Speaker, and to persuade the people of this country, 300,000, to take part in trials without which we can't have vaccines, Mr. Speaker. So I think you should take it back.
Mr Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, nobody's attacking individuals. Everybody's supporting the vaccine. £130 million, Prime Minister. There's a real question about the way that contracts are being awarded, about basic transparency and accountability. And I know the Prime Minister doesn't like that. This is not the Prime Minister's money, Mr. Speaker. It's taxpayers' money. The Prime Minister may well not know the value of the pound in his pocket, but the people who send us here do, and they expect us to spend it wisely. Let me illustrate an example of the government's lax attitude to taxpayers' money. Earlier this year, the government paid about £150 million to a company called Iandel Capital to deliver face masks. Can the Prime Minister tell the House how many usable face masks were actually provided to NHS workers on the front line under that contract?
Mr. Speaker, we're in the middle of a global pandemic in which this government has so far secured and delivered 32 billion items of personal protective equipment. And yes, it is absolutely correct, Mr. Speaker, that it's been necessary to work with the private sector, with manufacturers who provide equipment such as this, some of them more effectively than others, Mr. Speaker. But it's the private sector that in the end makes the PPE. It's the private sector that provides the testing equipment, Mr. Speaker, and it's the private sector that, no matter how much the party opposite may hate them, it's the private sector that provides the vaccines and the scientific breakthroughs, Mr. Speaker.
Here's Starmer.
The answer is none. Not a single face mask at a cost of £150 million. Mr. Speaker, that's not an isolated example. We already know that consultants are being paid £7,000 a day to work on test and trace, and a company called Randox has been given a contract without process for £347 million. That's the same company that had to recall 750,000 unused COVID tests earlier this summer on safety grounds. And there's a sharp contrast between the way the government sprays money at companies who don't deliver and their reluctance to provide long-term support to businesses and working people at the sharp end of this crisis. The Chancellor spent months saying that extending furlough was, these were his words, not the kind of certainty that British businesses or British workers need, only then to do a U-turn at the last minute. Yesterday's unemployment figures show the cost of that delay. Redundancies up by a record 181,000 in the last quarter. What's the Prime Minister's message to those that have lost their jobs because of the Chancellor's delay?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with great respect to the right honourable gentleman, he knows full well that the furlough programme has continued throughout this pandemic It went right the way through to October. It's now going through to March. It's one of the most generous programs in the world. 80% of income supported by this government. An overall package of £210 billion, Mr. Speaker, going in to support jobs, families and livelihoods throughout this country. I think this country can be very proud of the way we've looked after the entire population, when we are going to continue to do so. And he